So good evening guys, tonight we're talking all things Etsy. Now apologies for the fact it is getting dark in this video. I misinterpreted how early it gets dark still. But we're talking about Etsy sales tonight because if you want to sell on Etsy and if you want to make a profit on Etsy, there's a few things you need to know. Now I will admit my Etsy store is not my main source of income, it's not even a big one for me. I might make about an extra few £100 or even a few £1,000 on good months selling on Etsy. Despite that though, that's £1,000 in some months extra than what most people make selling on Etsy. And even with the figures of a few hundred pounds, I still get people wondering, how do you make so much on Etsy? Well, if I put a lot of effort into it, it could be a lot more, and I want to tell you about what I've learned from my Etsy selling journey. Now, most of you who subscribe will know this now, but I sell all sorts of things on all sorts of platforms. Etsy is one that I've been experimenting with for about 6 months now. Now, I initially got into Etsy because my eBay account got shut down and I wanted to see what the potential was like there. And immediately, when getting on the platform, I realised one thing. This is not eBay. This is a very different experience. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but what that means is, for your average seller, Etsy is a site or app, depending on what you see it as, that you need to approach quite differently. The way that I sell on Facebook Marketplace, or have done, the way I sell on eBay, let me just move this camera a bit closer, the way I sell on all of these platforms is nothing like how I sell on Etsy. And the reason for that, number one, is because Etsy is a specialist marketplace. eBay, Amazon, and Facebook Marketplace, you can sell basically anything, within legal reason of course, but you can sell anything, whereas places like Etsy, you need to understand, are very specialised markets. Now, what I do in my businesses, full stop, I don't make stuff for Etsy, some people do. I personally use a dropshipping model, and people may like that, people may not, that's a different topic, but that's what I do. And with that, you need to be very, very careful. So this applies to whatever you're selling on Etsy in whatever category. Understand, especially if you're a dropshipper, Etsy is a very niche platform, and it's for arts and crafts, supply tools, party tools, but essentially handmade goods. This is not a site where you can sell anything. I know some stores do sell things. I've seen people giving the example of a sunglasses store that makes a fortune. That's not a sustainable business, because one day it's entirely possible that the Etsy management team, let's say, will cotton onto that business and they'll shut it down. So if you're always running the risk of a business that can be shut down, in my opinion, you're not running a sustainable business. So that's what we need to understand first. You need to be sure of what you're selling on Etsy and understand if Etsy is the marketplace for you, because for a lot of people it won't be, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are still determined that you want to sell on Etsy, how do you go about it? Well, just like eBay, I'd say quantity is number one. Now with Etsy, despite being a more difficult marketplace to get set up on, it comes with a few advantages over eBay. Number one is a essentially indefinite ship time. Because a lot of stuff is handmade, you can set your ship out time to 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, 40 days. If you drop shipping, that makes it a lot easier because you don't have to worry about tight time schedules that you might find on eBay or Amazon. So that's brilliant. Another point that I'd say about Etsy is you don't need to promote listings. People get this completely wrong. With places like eBay, in my experience, like 60% of my sales come from promoted listings. I do not promote on Etsy at all. And if you want to know why the reason for that is, it's financially motivated. A business, for me, is not going to be something which has got large startup costs, because I know that I can move over to the next marketplace and start making money without any startup costs, apart from my electricity and my Wi-Fi. So I'm not going to pay for advertising on Etsy, unlike eBay where it gets taken out after the fact once you've made a sale. So I don't do it. What I've learned about Etsy though is because of that, if you're dealing with a low capital intensive business, i.e. you don't have the money to spend on advertising, whether it's by choice or you just don't have it, you need to be careful about what you sell as well. Now, a few Etsy business models, full stop, I wouldn't even bother with. I've tried them, I don't find them to work. Print on demand, for me, doesn't work. I've never had any luck with it, it's never worked for me. Maybe it will work for you guys, but I wouldn't bother with it for two reasons. Number one is the fact it's not worked, and it's a lot of labour is number two. It takes hours, you're looking at maybe 20 minutes to design a shirt or a mug. If it's not getting any sales, you could do 3 or 4 dropshipping items listed in that time very easily. I wouldn't bother with it for that reason. But what I would say is, make sure you do stick to a product which is in the parameters. If you want to boost your sales, you're looking for things that other people don't sell at prices that other people don't have. And even with dropshipping, you can do this, but you can do this with especially handmade items. It needs to be a trending item, or an item that's basically evergreen, in the sense that it's always going to be relevant, it's always going to be useful, and it's always going to be something that people want. I'd say that. And again, price is something, all of the sort of mosquito things coming out tonight. Price is another thing that I would say doesn't matter too much on Etsy. Customers seem to be a lot more willing to pay significantly more for items, but I guess what I'm trying to say is here, if you're going to make this work on Etsy, it's not like the other marketplaces. Be aware of the fact that you still want to ship out as fast as you can, you still want to make the price fairly competitive, but it's less a competition-based marketplace. It's more the customers are looking for something kind of unique, something kind of special, and something that essentially other people can't provide. And again, for me, I sell supplies, so that's art supplies and craft tools, basically, that's the categories. So really that can be anything from pencil cases to pen sets to clay kits, all sorts of stuff like that. Not necessarily the most interesting of marketplaces, but something that brings in a little bit of revenue every single month. I guess what I'm trying to say here is, if you're willing to plan this one out a lot better than you might plan out your eBays and your Facebook Marketplace and your Amazon, Etsy can work. But you need to be aware of the fact that you are always catering to a kind of niche market, and also a market where you got to sell a specific sort of thing. You have to do that, or else you'll essentially get banned, your items will get delisted, and you do not have a business that you can rely on for a long time. So yeah, if you want to make sales on Etsy, be aware of these things. You don't need to promote listings, by the way, and more than anything, and this goes for any of the marketplaces that we sell on and that I teach about or talk about, I wouldn't necessarily say teach, be aware that this is a low capital intensive business. But what that means is you need to instead spend the human capital, let's say, trialing and erroring, in the sense that you might list up 50 items, 3 of them might sell, and you can sort of double down on that. But be aware of your categories, be aware of your products, be aware of your customer, your ideal customer, and understand that because, or at least in my experience, because the market is a bit more niche, you've got to cater a bit more. So, like Etsy, I love it. It's a great extra income. I need to get on this myself. I'm going to make this a bigger stream of income myself, because I know it's possible. But again, I don't think for most people it's the number one place to start selling, unless you're a creative, and even then you could make an argument for selling on eBay. So if you're just looking to make money, guys, I would start on eBay. Then I'd move over to maybe Facebook Marketplace, then Amazon, then Etsy. But Etsy, it's got a lot of pluses. Customers are willing to pay for things, high priced. You do get organic traffic, despite what people may say. Oh, that is a big bumblebee for this time of year. You do get organic traffic, and it is feasible that you could be making a full-time income on Etsy, but it is going to take a bit more work in my experience than maybe some of the other marketplaces, so that's worth considering too. Anyway, I guess that's all I wanted to say for this one. Good luck selling on Etsy, guys. It is a great marketplace, and if you're looking to build a family of businesses, I would add Etsy to it. I definitely recommend it. It's a great platform. But now the vision is getting so dark in this woods, my camera's starting to go all blurry. Even if I have more stuff to talk about in this one, I'll have to save it for another video because we are just going too dark. Thank you for watching. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.